Outstanding. Happy Thursday. Welcome to today's Office Hours 6. This is second to the last one. You guys are doing great. Next week will be our last Office Hours. We're going to cover a lot of stuff tonight, some review and some new stuff, like we've been doing every week, and I hope you're enjoying that. Wanted to make sure that I answered some of your questions. So last week, one of you asked about SAM splints. So here's the SAM splint. I kind of need to see myself here. There we go. Here's a SAM splint. It is a brand name. So think about splinting. If you think back to the splinting of somebody, if you used a piece of cardboard, we always have boxes these days running around. So a piece of cardboard, you could actually, you know, splint an arm, fold it in to provide support when someone's got a broken wrist or a broken elbow or something to that effect, right? You're splinting to give them some added support than you'd, you know, bandage around that. What's nice about the SAM splint is that it's flexible. So it's essentially a portable splint that is flexible. You can fold it in different positions, you know, depending on where the injury may be, and it can be molded to fit, especially if the injury is an open injury and the arm is, you know, you're not putting the bone back in, remember? So you're splinting it as it is in the position that the arm or the leg may be in. You're not straightening it out when you're splinting it. You're just providing support. So this is one option that people sometimes carry in their CERT backpacks, as you saw Heyman last week. And it's an option that you might look into. No requirement, but it's just a nice thing to have. Of course, this is one, and you know, one victim, and that's what you're using it for. But what would you use if you had multiple people? So you want to have some options: cardboard, magazines, newspapers, whatever you can use to provide that extra support. Towels make good support. So wanted to show you the SAM splint since some of you had asked about it. Let's see. Pardon me while I make Casey a co-host here so she can take care of business. Excuse me. How is everyone? Hi, Casey. So Casey Treadway is fabulously facilitating for us again this evening. And I will have another new person for you to meet as well in just a moment. So you remember this picture from last week? So this is back in pre-COVID times, practicing lifts, and we all talked about which one of these people would be the leader, correct? So the person at the head, regardless of who the person is in rank or position, the person at the head is the one who makes the call as far as count, what we're doing, when we're doing it, how we're doing it, everything going there. So this is obviously a class on lifts. The folks in the background are working on cribbing. This is also cribbing. This is actually from our skills day. And in your references at the home base page, you should have this sheet. So if you haven't had a chance to open your references, it should be underneath the study guide. You'll find this particular sheet, which you'll find helpful and will make sense with what we're about to talk about next and what you saw in your online CERT class. So before I get started any further, are there any questions from perhaps last week or something that came up in online CERT that you wanted to be sure we covered? So make sure that you pop any questions in the Q&A box at any point. But first of all, I just wanted to see if there's anything right now, if you had any questions for me right now. The other good news, of course, is that we are in the orange tier in San Mateo County, which is terrific. We're heading into yellow. And what that means for us is that once we hit yellow, we can then schedule skills days. So we'll take a little bit of time to go from 0 to 60, but we'll make it work. We have a terrific team that's organizing and planning what the skills day will look like with COVID safety in mind. And then we'll get started. But in order for you to be included in that skills day, is you have to complete everything in your essentials documents box. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Casey, any questions for us before we move on?
Yeah, we do. So should we create a bucket of cribbing material that we can actually bring to the scene?
Wow, you guys are thinking ahead. So let's talk about cribbing and then we'll talk about options, okay? Because we'll cover a little bit of that. I think we'll answer the question in about what we're about to do next, but it's an excellent question. I'm glad you guys are thinking out of the box in terms of that. But are you going to carry cribbing everywhere you go? So these are all just like the SAM splint. It's great. You know, if you have one or two, that's great. But then, you know, you got a broken leg and a broken arm, and then you need something else. So tools are wonderful, but sometimes you got to think outside the box. I'm going to stop sharing so you can see the full screen here. And then I'm going to introduce you to Frank Mulia. Frank is our training coordinator for our CERT program. So he will be somebody that you'll be seeing a lot of from time to time in terms of upcoming trainings, events, things that are going on once you become one of our fully fledged CERTs. I'm going to move the camera, turn things around. So you're going to meet Frank and you're going to see some cribbing material that he made for a tabletop exercise. I'm really excited about this. So hold on while I move the camera around and we'll get started here.
I also provided in the chat the reference to the diagram that was shown a little bit earlier because Sandra said it would be handy to keep on your screen.
So say hi to Frank, everyone.
Hello. So we're going to talk a little bit about cribbing tonight. I know you guys have gone through your search and rescue module, and that talks a bit about cribbing. So what I have here is a simulated, victim situation kind of thing.
Who says CERT can't be fun? This is great.
Absolutely. So typically we go out in teams of how many people usually? 3, right?
Right.
You almost can't do a crib with 3 people. You don't have enough. You need, so if you come across a victim, probably the first thing you need to do is get on the radio and call for help. Get another team coming to you. Because as you see here, I've got 6 spots, if you will. What I have a left side cribber, right side cribber, and another cribber over here. I have a person standing by to pull the victim when he's been freed. I have my lever person who is going to operate the fulcrum, which actually does the heavy lifting. And then I have the team lead, who in this case, since there's only 6 people, he's also going to double as the safety officer. So
let's see the victim here.
My victim is here.
There's our victim.
And he's trapped under what we'll call a slab of concrete or something. So the team lead's going to do the assessment. And since he's also the safety person, he's going to be looking around so the team can focus on the lift. What the safety person is looking for is obviously the safe operation of the lift, but also, hey, is there a fire truck coming by? Is there a wall going to tip over on the team? That kind of thing. In an ideal situation, we would have one person dedicated for that while the team lead focused on the lead, but you make do with what you got. So what we've got here is a 2x2 crib, which means there's 2 pieces going this way, 2 pieces going this way. And the intention of this would be to lift this piece up off the victim as best we can. And we might have to move our lifting a little bit. So we lift him up, we build the cribs underneath, so he's supported, and we pull the person out.
So Frank, why can't we just, as you just did, push down on the lever, and then somebody pulls out the victim?
Well, because if you were to do that, the whole safety of the lift would depend on the strength of this person. You would have nothing supporting the load. If this person let go, you could have a rescuer now trapped. You could have the victim is more injured than he was when you found him. But if we lift this up and we put stuff under him, under this, i.e. a crib, so like this, we put this under and like that. If he lets go, this only falls a little ways. And you guys, this is simple. It's a game of inches. You don't need to lift this thing 3 feet in the air. You need to lift it so it's an inch off his body and you can pull him out. And that's one of the firefighters expressed that to me as we were doing a skills day, and he was right. We didn't need to lift the thing, 3 feet in the air to get the person out, just enough to get him out. Okay,
Let's
so
go over all the, I'm sorry, all the places, all the roles.
so yeah, cribber. So these people are the ones that are actually going to build the crib underneath the load once the lever person has lifted. So what the team leader is going to do, he's going to shout out to everybody, hey, we're getting ready to lift. He's going to tell the lever guy, 1, 2, 3, lift. The lift will happen. The cribbers will go in and build. And as soon as they're done and their hands are out, they put their hands up. That way, the safety captain, all he has to do is look around and count 8 hands. He's not, listening for, hey, I'm clear, because you don't know what's going on around you. It could be, again, a fire truck rolling by with a siren going. This is a very quick, clear indicator that your hands are out. Okay? Okay, so going on to the question we had earlier of should we carry cribbing with us?
Mm-hmm.
So we have, in a perfect world, we have the 4x4s, the 2x4s, and the wedges that you see in your study guide. Short answer to that is unless you have a ladder truck nearby, you will not have nice 2x4s and 4x4s and wedges to do this. So let's think about what else we could use as a crib. Spare tires are wonderful. They're super strong. With the steel rims, they're super strong. Fences can be easily taken apart for 4x4s and boards and whatever else. Basically, you got to look around and see what you can do.
Car jacks.
Car jacks are wonderful as well. We talked about this at one of the skills days. Your cribbing and lift may be 8 people get around this thing, pick it up, and pull the victim. If that's the only thing you have to work with, then again, you do the best you can with what you got.
Right. You size it up, you make a plan. If it's safe, that's your move.
Right. And as always, don't be afraid to change your plan. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Because if it's not working, it's not working. One last thing on the lever, it's important where you put the fulcrum. So if I put this way back here, I get very little lift off of this. And you'll see this at skills day. But if I bring this forward, I get super easy. I can lift, hundreds of pounds like that. We've lifted cars with this. And so it's all a matter of physics. It's where you put the lever is very important. But again, it's hard to see that here because you can't really feel it. But again, at skills day, once it happens, then you will have that demonstration as well.
Let's talk a little bit about if you have a medical person, what is that person doing during this whole process?
Well, at this point, while the slab is being lifted or whatever it is, and the cribs are being built, the medical person should be totally ready to pull the person as soon as they're freed. At the same time, talk to the person, keep them calm and just kind of say, hey, it's okay. We got people here. We're working on you. And then again, as soon as that person is able to be pulled out of there, that person gets pulled. And also as the medical person, this person may be the guy under the thing, maybe a 6'6", 300-pound monster. Don't be afraid to ask one of your colleagues for help. So if the cribber is done and it's time to pull and you can't do it by yourself, get one of your teammates to help you. There's no shame in that. In fact, we encourage that because we don't want another team member to get hurt.
So any questions right now on cribbing? Because it is a concept.
Yes.
Just to clarify from earlier, the question we had, someone's asking, should we create a bucket of cribbing material? So I know you mentioned the fire truck, but they're asking if they should do it themselves and have it on hand.
There you go.
Well, my answer to that would be, yeah, there is cribbing in the CERT trailers. I don't think it'd be practical for the teams to carry buckets of cribbing with them because it's heavy. The buckets of cribbing, to do this, you would probably have 3 5-gallon buckets and probably weigh 10 to 15 pounds each. Each bucket. And you look at it, so you're looking at almost 50 pounds between the team to carry. So I don't think it's practical, honestly, to carry cribbing. As you're going along though, kind of keep an eye out for what you could use if you had to.
Exactly. And keep in mind that, once you're gathered at your meeting place, if there is a realization that there's perhaps a victim trapped underneath a wall or something that may have fallen down, we will try to send out teams with as many tools as we have available to us. So if we have the CERT trailer there, then the cribbing will be taken with that team. If you're going out on a medical response or setting up a medical treatment area, you'd be going out with a medical bag that would have the medical equipment that we have available to us. So this would enhance anything that you already have in your bag. Having individuals with cribbing material, well, you know, it's awesome if somebody can get there with their truck and they have some cribbing material or some lumber in their truck and access to the location, because of course we don't know what the situation is with roads and infrastructure, right? So the reality is that you may have to come up with options like Frank said, spare tires, fencing, the poles that they use to hold up trees, so, you know, against the wind, the jack out of your cars. Those sorts of things are going to be what is realistic in terms of if you came across somebody who was trapped in a situation like this. Okay. Now, of course, the first thing you want to make sure is that you have a viable victim. I mean, unfortunately, the person underneath this wall that collapsed may be deceased, right? So you're checking, make sure there's breathing, there's an airway, there's talking or showing signs of life before your team puts themselves into a situation that is risky, but you have to assess, right? You're doing your size up before you do anything else. Make a plan, gather what you're going to use as your cribbing material, as your lever and your fulcrum. Have all that together before you even begin to take action, right? All right. So you wanted to move on to another aspect of the review from what they went through in search and rescue.
Okay, so we're going to talk now about the light search and rescue. And I do emphasize light. We do not go in where heavy damage has happened. And again, we're going to assess as we go and we'll decide as a team.
We're not going into a collapsed building.
No, that wouldn't be any fun. Okay, so
hang on, I'm going to move the camera again. So stand by, guys. Close your eyes. Don't get dizzy. I'll grab that for a second.
No.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, so what are we looking at?
So we're looking at a simulated room. So essentially in a search and rescue situation, you would have, again, your team lead and one other team member most likely, and you have a person outside, right? So the two people that are designated to go in are going to go in hand to shoulder, and the team lead is going to be the one obviously leading the way. He needs, that person, whoever it is, needs to be focused on the ground in front of him, making sure there's no trip hazards, there's no holes in the floor. The other thing, his partner or her partner, whatever it is, needs to be, again, head on a swivel, looking around, looking up. There's no wires, there's no, you know, ceiling getting ready to collapse on them. So they become essentially the safety person for the team. And even as a team leader, if your partner says, we're out, go. Because that person has seen something that you may not have.
Right. So just like the fire extinguisher teamwork, yes. Same idea.
Same, exactly. It's exactly the same. Okay, so we have what they call a right-hand search and a left-hand search. And that simply indicates the direction you've decided to go once you enter the room. So
and Frank, do you mind just reading what's in the orange text, because it's a little hard to see on screen?
Okay, so it says orange equals right-hand search. And you notice there's orange arrows going around. Mm-hmm. So that would indicate that you have decided that you're going to enter the room and go to the right. And then green equals left-hand search, which is the same thing, except you've entered the room and elected to go to the left. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Basically what you're doing is you're hugging the walls and you're going around, and obviously you're looking out here for a victim or anything like that, but you want to stay close to the walls. That way you can put a hand on a wall and you know you're not lost in the middle of the room. And more importantly, your partner knows where you are, because the team leader may hold your hand and step out to look at something in the middle of the room, but you're in contact with the wall and he's in contact with you. So you have a human chain there that we haven't broken contact. Now all of a sudden we don't have a person in a dark room that could be smoky or whatever it is, you haven't lost contact with them. That's really important.
Because we're assuming, power's out. It might be nighttime. It might be rainy. It might be loud. It might be
right. So you
quiet.
always want to maintain physical contact with your team member. If it's not the hand on the shoulder and shuffling along, it's at least arm's length that the person can go look at something if they have to. The point is that you're still in physical contact and you can bring that person back.
Right.
So we talk about size up and not being afraid to change the plan. This is hard to see, but we decided as a team we're going to go for a left-hand search rather, and we're going along and we're checking and we're not finding anything. But then all of a sudden we come to a huge hole in the floor, which is right here by this X. So again, don't be afraid to change the plan. So we come across this big hole in the floor and we decide, okay, we're switching out to a right-hand search, and we go back to where we came, and then we proceed to do a right-hand search, and we complete our search. We end up back at the hole in the floor. We cleared the room, and then we go back out the way we came in.
All right.
Okay. Any questions on the left or right-hand search?
We do. So we have someone asking, does the team leader do the markings while the team is searching or before anyone enters the building?
The markings get done in 2 stages. We're going to talk about that actually right now.
Right now, right?
So the markings get done. If we switch over to here, this will answer the question that is visual.
I have enough support.
Okay.
Hold on.
We're adjusting cameras.
Everybody bear with us here.
Again, Frank, the orange is a little bit hard to read, so you might just have to read out what's on the board.
Oh, yeah, that's not a problem. Not a problem. So once you guys graduate, you will get one of these that will give you essentially what I have on the board here. So I will explain this real quick. So you and your team have arrived at your search location and you're preparing to enter the building. First thing you're going to do is you're probably going to walk around, if you can, looking up and down, making sure there's not something collapsed in there or anything as best you can from the outside. If you decide that you're going in, perfect. So again, you're going to have a team leader and one other person outside. Before you enter the building, you put a slash on the wall, you put the date and the time you entered. Then you put your CERT ID, whatever team number you are. You might be Foster City 1 or San Mateo Consolidated 2 or whatever designation you've been given at the command post. So now we know that we have a team in the building, what day they went in there, and what time they went in. Okay? You do your search, everything's fine. You come out. Now, once you leave the building, again, you still have your CERT ID, you have your date and your time in. This is very important. Your time out. That's huge. I'll explain why in a second. This one here gets areas searched and hazards found, if you found anything. So the areas searched is important as well, because let's say it's a 2-story building and you've done your search on the ground floor, but then you go to do the second floor and you find the stairways collapsed. Okay, you haven't searched the whole building because why? Because it's dangerous and you're not going up the collapsed stairway. But professional rescuers can. So it's important that a professional rescue team comes along and they say, okay, the team went in, okay, they got out, we know who did it. They only searched the first floor because they found a collapsed stairway. And you could note that. You could put area search, first floor, collapsed stairway. And then any other hazards found, like i.e. the collapsed stairway. Or if you found wires in the middle of the room or anything like that. So the person going in after you knows what they're walking into. And then if any victims were found. And this one's a touchy one a little bit because you want to be informative, but you also want to be discreet. Like you don't want to put, we have 3 dead. Maybe you put 3D or, 3I for injured or whatever it is, but just kind of to be tactful.
Yeah.
So, because you never know that the person who owns the home, their husband or wife or whatever could come on and they'd say, oh shit, there's 3 dead people. There's 3 dead people in here. And that's just not, it's not good. We also want to make sure that this is big on the wall. Because what you want is if there's another search team going along and they're looking, they need to be able to see that big X on the wall.
From the street.
From the street. And now they know that that building's been searched. So if it's a fire crew or something coming behind you guys and they see CERT, they may go in and reassess that building.
Mhm.
Or if they see that you couldn't search the second floor because of that, then they know that as well.
Or if they see that you're in the building.
Yes, that too.
They
see you haven't come out.
It's important that they know that you're in there, how long you've been. Maybe they should go in and check on you or ask if you need support.
Yes. So please remember, this is super important. I'm going to state it again. When you leave the building, everybody's fine. You haven't found anything. You're walking on to your next search. Don't forget to put your time out. Because what happens is the professional searchers come along. They see that you went in. They see that you searched, but they don't have a record of you leaving. And now all of a sudden we have a missing team. And what that does is it distracts resources that we could use for other stuff to come looking for you guys. So that's probably the most important part of that X, is to make sure that we put on that we went in and that we left.
Okay. So how do we mark the wall, Frank?
Well, lots of ways. I've seen people do it with spray paint. It's not super easy to write with spray paint unless you're a professional tagger, which I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Chalk, the big kitty chalk is great.
Sidewalk chalk?
Sidewalk chalk, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the only problem with sidewalk chalk is that it gets everywhere. It gets in your bag. Even if you put it in a zip top bag, you have yellow stuff everywhere in your bag. What I like are these guys. You buy them in any hardware store. They're called lumber crayons.
Lumber crayons, okay.
So it's essentially a wax crayon. They will write on anything. Brick, stucco, wood, any of that kind of stuff you can write with these. Mm-hmm. Do yourselves a favor though. It gets hot around here. Leave them in their packaging so that they don't melt in your CERT bag. They usually come in packs of 2. They're about $2. So,
all right.
Yeah. So questions on the search or
cribbing or marking
or any of that?
We do. So one person's asking, wouldn't sidewalk chalk wash away in the rain?
Yes, it would. But hopefully you have a building that has an overhang or a porch or something. Kind of try to mark it in a place where it wouldn't get as wet if all you have is a sidewalk chalk, which is one of the reasons I prefer the lumber crayons, because they don't wash away, because they're made of wax.
And we also have a previous question about cribbing, but I'll save that for a little bit later.
So. Okay. So we're going to stay in suspense now over the question.
There you go.
I can give it to you if you want. I just didn't want to backtrack. Okay. Would we implement cribbing and pulling the victim out if the victim is trapped entirely underneath the object? The video suggested that we should not reach under the object that is trapping the individual.
Absolutely correct. You never put your hands under the load for obvious reasons. At that point, you would probably do your assessment and say, hey, we've got this, we got a victim here. They're, as far as we can tell, they're breathing, they're viable. We need professional help here. At that point, you might not walk away. You might stay and comfort the victim until professional help arrives. But yeah, you should not, actually, you shouldn't at all ever put your hands under something you're not sure is
stable. If the victim is conscious, enlist the victim to help you. He or she may be able to reach their arm out towards you so you can pull them out, or maybe even be able to scooch themselves out if you're able to lift the load enough for them to do so, to free themselves. So yes, always enlist the help of the victim if they are conscious. But that's the only way that you'd get somebody who's completely under a load. Yeah.
So when the firefighters do their lifting cribbing training, and it's always a rookie that does it, they stick their hand under the load.
Yep.
So they get a can of blue spray paint and they spray paint the guy's hand blue, and he sits around with a blue hand all day. As a reminder not to put your hands.
We don't do that in CERT, don't worry.
No spray paint CERT.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a super important point. Thank you, Casey.
I'm moving the camera. Stand by, everybody. Don't get dizzy.
Yeah, that's all the questions for now, so we'll hold on.
Okay, and we're going to thank Frank very much. Look for Frank in future CERT activities and emails and things that you'll be receiving once you become fully CERT. And if there are no more questions for Frank, he has to go and I will continue. But Any questions that come up, don't hesitate to put them in the Q&A box. All righty. Thank you. All right, are we seeing this? Am I sharing again?
You are?
Yay! All right, outstanding. So thank you very much to Frank, and we'll continue on. But again, if there's a question that pops into your head later, don't hesitate to ask. But I love the tabletop cribbing that Frank made for us, and so we're going to be using that for future trainings. And thank you, Frank, for that very much.
No problem.
All right. So Frank did show you the little cheat sheets that we're going to be receiving. If you are in our cities, if you are in our jurisdiction, everyone will get these cheat sheets, including how to mark the outside of a building. And this will come with your CERT ID badge. All right.
Good night, Sandra.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, guys. Thanks for coming.
So let's talk a little bit about PSPS. Have you heard about this? You should have. This is something that has been with us now for a little over a year. When I first came on board and was first teaching the CERT class, PSPS was not a concept that people saw commonly. So public safety power shutoff. These are things that we need to be aware of. It is done by all the utilities throughout California. In our area, it's PG&E. And this was something that they used, they used, unfortunately, the wildfires as a learning experience when some of the hot equipment sparked some of the wildfires that we suffered here in California. So the PSPS was their answer on how to shut off potentially hot sparking towers and equipment in certain areas in certain weather circumstances. So there has to be a perfect storm, if you will. There has to be high winds expected. There has to be low humidity. And there has to be a lot of fuel in a given area, a lot of dry fuel in a given area. So this is not something that just affects, you know, the foothills and out in the wildernesses of California. This affects us here because distribution lines run all the way through Northern California. So if they shut it off way up there, it may affect us here in Foster City or San Mateo or Belmont, as it has in the past. And people have had power out for 3 days, in some areas up to a week. Why do they do this? Like I said, this is their answer to help prevent devastating wildfires. The advantage, if you will, of a PSPS is that you get some warning, 48 hours and 24 hours warning. All customers will be notified. If you happen to live in a situation where your rent or your mortgage happens to pay the PG&E bill somehow and the bill doesn't come to you, you won't be notified. So you need to ensure that you are on their list. So there is a, you know, by going to this website, there's information on how to prepare for a power shutdown. But the advantage, like I said, as opposed to if we get you know, a windstorm and a power line goes down and our neighborhood goes out, we didn't have any warning of that. That just happens, and that's going to happen, and we need to be prepared for those as well. But a PSPS, they will notify their customers. What if you're a hospital or something that's essential? They won't shut you down. Yeah, they'll shut you down too. But hospitals and fire stations and stuff have backup generator power. So same idea here. You should be prepared in some way for a power outage, especially if you have any medical devices that require electricity or battery charging. So have a plan. What would you do, or what will you do when your power goes out? So think about these things and how they would affect you and your loved ones so you can plan ahead. Now, a PSPS is a given area, and they will notify you if you're in that given area. You'll be able to look up what that given area is. And so you'll say, oh, well, I can go over to my friend's house and charge my devices there tomorrow morning because they are outside of the zone. That might be a backup plan. So you have to work out what works best and is most convenient to you. All right, think about everything that runs on electricity. My favorite is the one that's first on the list. We forget these things. This is one of those reasons why you don't go driving around after an incident. Power's out, traffic lights are out, things are not working. No one's, everybody's a little panicked. So don't add to the problem. We want to be part of the solution. So by staying somewhere that's safe and not driving around just out of curiosity, getting yourself into a dangerous situation. But think of all the things that might not work. Gasoline pumps. This is why we, at the fire department, no vehicle, whether it be a fire truck or a pickup truck or a support vehicle, once they hit half a tank, we have to refill them. That's half a tank is empty to us. My mom taught me the same thing. She said, half tank belongs to you and a half a tank belongs to the car. You always want to be able to leave an area if you had to. And you don't want to count on the corner gas station being available to you because it may not. So think about the things that run on electricity and how you would mitigate not having that for several days. Okay, so think in terms of days, maybe a week would be ideal rather than just a couple of days. All right. So we ask for our certs to take that extra step to be as self-sufficient as possible for as many days as possible. Water is certainly something that is going to be a major issue. There are, in every disaster I can think of, with the exception of the pandemic, water is usually affected at least temporarily, because if there's an earthquake or some sort of a leak, they want to make sure that nothing affected the water supply. So they may issue a boil water notice or a don't use the tap water notice, and you want to have options. Now remember, I think I gave you the example, right, of the gallon of water. Is this gallon of water enough for you for a day to do your washing, to do your, make your coffee in the morning, to bathing, to flushing your toilet, and to drink? If if a gallon of water, that's the minimum recommended, a gallon of water per person per day. But think about your needs, think about your household and how you use water. And so think about what you'd like to do as far as storing when you can, when it's possible, storing extra water for the sake of your family in case of an emergency. And then you rotate that out. So for example, if I had a case of these, I'd keep the case of these in a shed or in the garage or wherever it is that I'm keeping my water supply. And then the next time I buy a case, I rotate it out, right? So I'm always utilizing that water and not letting it get stale or too old. Remember pets, remember folks with special needs. And, the dynamic in your house can change, okay? So, kids go skiing on winter break and they break a leg and they're on crutches. Well, now they're going to take a little longer to evacuate. Maybe they'll take up more space in a vehicle because they need to keep their leg straight. So the dynamics, what defines special needs is going to change based on what is happening with your family. Somebody had surgery, obviously that person's going to need more help than in normal times, okay? All right, so here are some of the essentials. And you'll find this on, I believe, in the home base page, but if not, I will forward these things to you, but you should be able to find them on the website fairly easily. And now, of course, we have to add masks and face coverings, hand sanitizer, all that sort of thing. And for goodness sakes, always have an extra charger. Don't assume you're going to unplug your charger and remember to bring it with you. Have the extra charger in your CERT bag, in your go bag, in your emergency supply kit, and maybe one at work if that's where you're going to have some emergency supplies. And you want to have stuff anywhere that you spend time. So the trunk of your car, if you use your car a lot, your workplace, your school place, and home. Home would, of course, be your major kit. All right. You want to be comfortable. You want to have some things that make you comfortable, and so and of course safe. So work gloves and shoes and that sort of thing is going to help obviously with your safety, but you know, a book to read, or a knitting project, or a puzzle, anything that is going to help you pass the time, because there's going to be a situation where things suddenly stop and all you have to do is worry, and you don't want to do that. So it helps to have some items. Always customize your bag to things that you like. And if you have any food sensitivities, allergies, don't presume that the shelter or wherever they're providing food is going to have something that meets your dietary needs, especially in the first few days after a disaster. So have some granola bars or bars that you can eat. If that's all you had, at least you'd be able to get by for a few days if you had a few of those bars in your emergency kit. Casey, this is for you. Casey's always reminding me, plastic bags, large trash bags, they are fantastic, and they should be in everybody's kit and in everybody's bag. They're very easy to carry, and they fulfill a lot of roles, including for sanitation. So make sure you have that. It's an easy thing to just roll up and keep in a bag. All right. So tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about the term and the philosophy of activation in CERT. Now here's where things may differ between agencies. So if you do not live in our area and you're going to be working with a CERT team from another area, you have to find out what their activation plan is, because theirs might differ than ours, all right? But this is ours, and this is something that you're going to receive once you've completed CERT. But it's very important to know that in our agency, as CERT in San Mateo Consolidated Fire, we do not self-activate. We don't decide, oh, something's happened, I'm gonna put on my CERT vest and I'm gonna go out and save the world, right? We don't do that. We wait until we are officially activated so that we can save the world together, right? And you wanna have your team with you, because what is the #1 priority in CERT? Put it in the Q&A box right now. I want to hear and see. The #1 priority in CERT is?
Personal safety.
Yes, your safety. You are the #1 priority in CERT. So your safety and that of your team. So we don't want you running out with a CERT vest and a clipboard and putting yourself out there because you don't know the full situation, because you don't have the team around you, all right? So the #1 way that we notify you if you are activated is through SMC Alert. So please, please, please make sure you are registered with SMC Alert. The website is there, and that is the #1 way. Not the only way, because of course we know that cell phones may not be working, right? But that is one way. So make sure that you've got that set up. I'm sorry, I keep losing my cursor and I can't find my way around. All right, so there are certain situations that have to be met, certain criteria that has to be met before we officially activate CERT. And that is, our professional first responders need additional assistance, okay? And secondly, whatever the situation is, whatever the mission may be, it has to be within the scope of our CERT training. So for example, when the police chief in Belmont wanted to have some more assets to help with the search of a missing senior, CERT could be a force multiplier to the San Mateo County Search and Rescue Team. So they put in a specific request, an official request to our fire chief. Could your CERTs assist us in this search on a given day? We want to search a particular area, and this is what we want to do and utilize CERT for. We took that request, we took a look. Yes, it meets with the training. We put out a SMC alert, boom, we had 25 CERT members show up in appropriate gear and everything, because they read the request, the official request that came through. They met at the given spot, and they were able to team up with search and rescue teams and cover a given area in a matter of just a few hours that they could not have done without our added assistance. It was an excellent example of an activation because it really worked out very well. It was a great experience for the CERT members. We unfortunately at that time did not find any clues or anything to help us with this missing person, but they were very happy that they were able to cover an area and know that they had covered that area because of CERT assistance. All right. So the request has to come from the top down. So the fire chief, for example, a police chief will make the request to the fire department. They will contact me or somebody in OES, and then that request will go out officially. All right. So and everyone, so you have to be under an official activation in order to be CERT. And that DSW form that you guys are filling out, right? That is part of your essential documents, that disaster service worker volunteer, that is essentially a like a workers' comp situation, but it only works if you are responding to an activation that has been officially assigned. Okay, that's why it's very important that you not activate. And an activation could come shortly after the earthquake, for example, or it could come days after. Because again, it has to be a situation in which our professional responders need the additional assistance. And after working 24, 48 hours, they're going to need support. They're going to need fresh people coming in to make, to assist in different roles. And that's where CERT might come in. So again, it could be several days after. What happens if you get an SMC alert or some notification that you're activated, but you're not at home or you haven't been to your home yet, right? Are you under any obligation to respond? We're going to get to that. All right. Other ways that you get it is a text message, obviously SMC alert, ham radio. If you are a ham radio, a licensed ham radio operator, you would turn your radio on after an event and keep it on a certain frequency based on which city you're in and listen. And obviously I could send out a message via ham radio to CERT and let them know that they have been activated. You might get it via the local TV government access channel. In our area, that's channel 27. So we may do a television blurb, or we may actually reach out to the, we have the emergency radio, sorry. The emergency radios, we have two of them, one in Foster City, one in San Mateo on the AM dial. Those are the frequencies right there. We are working on one in Belmont. It does not exist just yet, but we may put out a recorded message on that, activating our CERTs. And of course, you might hear from your CERT team, your CERT neighborhood leaders, that they've received the message, and or on television, radio, regular television, radio, social media, we will put it out a request for CERT trained volunteers to please respond to location X, which could be your neighborhood meeting place, which you will learn about after you become CERT, or it may be a specific location depending on where the need is, where the disaster happened, and what the situation may be. All right. So you receive the official notification. Do you have to respond? No. As CERT, we're training you to take care of yourself, your family, your home. Make sure your business is taken care of, because we don't want you responding and worrying about other things. We want you to be able to be focused on what you're doing. So if you can't respond until the next day or 2 days later, don't worry. The news or the situation is still going to be there, unfortunately. We will still need help, and we will still need fresh bodies. So if you, a lot of times people will ask me, okay, so if I get an activation from you, Sandra, do I call you to let you know I'm on my way? No. Do I call you to tell you I can't be there? No. Don't call, show up. When you show up, we'll know how many people we have and how many teams we have and what we can do. You know, if only 2 people show up to a park, that's not enough to send out and do anything. So they may team up with another local team that's teamed up at another park, another meeting place, and have a bigger team that way. It all depends on the given situation, and you work with what you have. You work with the tools that are given to you at the time. And if 10 of you show up, great, and you move from there and organize yourselves and go from there, right? But make sure that you have your things taken care of, because we want you to be in a good place mentally, so that you don't have to worry about your family. You know that they're okay. And then you can move on and help the rest, right? Okay. What if you decide to activate? Please, your safety first. Be sure you have situational awareness. You never know what's behind you if you're not looking around, okay? So things change very drastically after an emergency, such as an earthquake or a wildfire. Landmarks that used to be there, road signs, street names may be gone, and if you always knew that, so-and-so lived next to that tree and that tree is gone, now you can't locate so-and-so's house, right? So things are going to look different after a disaster, and that's important to be aware of. And your safety, of course, is paramount. So debris that may be blowing around, wires that may be down, all that are hazards that you need to at least be aware of. And you should be documenting them as you decide that you're going to respond. So now you're going to activate. You grab your CERT backpack, you make sure you're dressed appropriately, right? And then you're going to head out. So what are you going to do? So this is the neighborhood damage summary. This form is in the Unit 6, the Class 6 references that I put in. And this is one of the forms that we recommend that you carry in your CERT backpack, so that you might want to make a few copies of this and have it with you. Because as you're walking from your house to the park where you're going to meet with your CERT team, you can start tracking, right? 125 Main Street, no damage. 126 Main Street, light damage. And you can indicate, do you smell gas? Is there anything, if anything is stands out to you, you can individually mark that. That way, when you arrive to your meeting place, you will now have a report of, things may be perfectly fine in your neighborhood. Great. Now we can rule out that neighborhood. We don't have to send anybody there to assess, because we know that's okay. Oh, wait, this person saw a tree into a house and heard people yelling. Okay, that's a priority. Now we may have to send a team there. So again, you're bringing that information to a collective place, your meeting place. You guys as a team are determining what the priorities are. The team leader will organize the command post leader will issue teams. And then from those teams, you guys have to decide who's going to be the scribe, who's going to be the communicator, the ham or the radio operator, and who's the team lead. But again, remember, you're all helping each other out and you're all making decisions together, but you have those roles, so at least you can move forward, okay? The other form that I highly recommend that you have in your backpack is known as the 214. So on this sheet, you'd put over here, you'd put the names of all the people on your team and their position, right? And your home base could be the park that you left from, okay? Where your command post is located. And then this is your diary of everything that you do, you individually, because everybody on the team should technically be filling this out. If only one person can fill it out on the team, the scribe, for example, then they would definitely make sure they have everybody's names there because you're filling it out for everyone. But the 214 is a crucial piece of documentation, because the emergency, the incident, of course, is bad. And responding to that incident is very important, and it is what we do, right? The Community Emergency Response Team. We are responding. But eventually, the big thing is going to be getting back to normal, right? That's what we're working right now through in the pandemic. We're trying to get back to normal. That's the reality in every emergency. whether it be an earthquake or a wildfire, flood, whatever, getting back to normal, recovery is huge, right? Getting the grocery stores open, getting the kids back in school so there's a routine back in your life. These things are massively important. Recovery takes money. And one of the ways that we are assisted as a community is by FEMA support after the fact. And one of the ways that your community gets money back is through the 214s, because they can see that these many volunteers gave these many hours of their time towards the response, and FEMA will pay for that. And right now, I believe the pay for a volunteer is something like $27 an hour. But if we don't have documentation, if you didn't write it down, it didn't happen. So documentation on a 214, crucial, crucial, crucial to the recovery of your community after a disaster. So please make sure that you do that. It's a pain, I grant you, I agree, but I've been filling out a lot of these over the course of the pandemic. So people who are paid fill them out as well as volunteers. But like I said, for volunteer hours, your community gets back from FEMA something like $27 per hour of your time. You are very, very valuable to our recovery, only if it's been documented. All right. Are there any questions before I move on to my next topic? On anything that we covered today or last week?
I haven't seen anything yet, but I'm keeping an eye out.
I appreciate that. Very good. All right, let's talk a little bit about when the disaster happens somewhere else. You know, we're seeing tornado warnings throughout the South and the East Coast, where, you know, obviously the hurricanes and the wildfires in Northern California. And we as human beings, and I love us for it, we have big hearts, we want to help. What do we do? How do we respond? You know, we have immediately, you'll start seeing groups, you know, organizing, and they're collecting, you know, clothes or diapers or water, and they got a trucker to donate, you know, the truck and the gas and their time to drive it. So they're going to fill this truck up with goods and send it to wherever the disaster may be, right? And then this is what we hope for. We hope that we send all these shirts and water and diapers and things, and on the other end, at the disaster site, that person who needs that is going to open that box or that bag, and it's going to be, perfect. This is exactly what I need, right? Is that the reality? And so let's talk about that for just a moment. But how do we know what they need? Every disaster, even if it's the Tubbs fire versus the Camp fire, they're both wildfires, but they're both unique. Each will be unique. The citizens impacted in each area will be different. There may be more families in one area, more retirees in another area, more or less homeless in a given area. So every disaster is unique, and the needs of that community are going to be unique. In every disaster, there's a couple of things that are consistent. One of them is that space is an issue, because all the space is being used to shelter people, feed people, shelter the assistance that's coming in from maybe from other states, the mutual aid that's coming in from other areas to assist. All those firefighters have to stay somewhere, right? All those rescuers have to stay somewhere. So they build up a camp in, you know, parking lots or fairgrounds or open areas. So all that space that we may have in a given area is being utilized. So space is in short supply. Personnel, obviously all the personnel is focused on whatever the disaster may be and solving the situations that are coming up from that disaster. So personnel and space are not available in any disaster, right? Because everybody's got a job and everybody's working towards something. So this is the reality of what happens when we ship a truckload of stuff to a disaster area. it's got to get dropped off because the trucker needs to drop off the load. And oh, look, there's an open parking spot and other people left stuff. So we're going to just unload everything here. Okay, great. Now, how do I know what's in this box way back here? Or what's in this bag over here? You know, if this person needs clothes, you know, I don't know if these fit him or her. I don't know if they're clean or have been checked or, you know, have met any criteria. So now all this stuff is out there in a pile. And after a couple of days in the sun or in the rain, it now changes category from stuff to a hazardous waste because it isn't safe for us to go through it. And we don't have the personnel to go through and sort everything out. So now the community has to hire a special team that is a hazardous waste disposal team to come gather all the stuff that was so generously donated and dispose of it safely. So now we've taken up space, we've taken up personnel, and we've taken up money. It's not our fault. We didn't mean for that to happen, but that's what we've done inadvertently, right? All good things sometimes have a side effect. So let's think about what and how we can effectively help people who are in a disaster situation that we want to help, and we should, but let's do so in the most effective way possible. All right, so think about things that you can do. First of all, please go through an agency that you know and trust, preferably one that has disaster response experience. So whichever agency, whether it be faith-based or an organizational, non-government organization that you want to donate to, great. Or if you want to send something, and I understand that desire, send gift cards, because one of the things that they do is they hand out gift cards to, for grocery stores or things that are locally based. So this now allows each of the victims to decide what it is they need at that time. And it also helps the local community because you're building up their economy. So those are really the best ways, most effective ways to help when the disaster is elsewhere. All right. Any questions about that? Good? All right. So what now? You guys have been taking CERT for several weeks now, and you've got all this training and you've learned so much. And I hope you've enjoyed it because there really is so many amazing things. But so let's start making preparedness part of your routine. We do not want you to have to dedicate an entire weekend and hundreds of dollars to creating your emergency kits and your bags and your go bags. And this should be something that you do over time through part of your daily routine, okay? Keeping your gas tank half full. Yes, that means you may have to go fill up a little bit more often than before, but believe me, it'll pay off big time when you need to get out of town and you don't have to worry about filling the gas tank. Next time you're at the grocery store, buy an extra case of water, right? And rotate water and have the water that you need. Keep your cell phone charged and always have an extra cord. Cords are not terribly expensive and you can keep them everywhere. That way you don't have to worry about remembering to take it with you, all right? Change your clothes in your trunk, that gym bag, make that your extra clothes. You have comfortable shoes, an extra pair of socks. Believe me, all these things are gonna make your life so much more comfortable when things are very uncomfortable, all right? Have you set up that out-of-state contact yet? Yes, you've all done that? Great, all right. Now is the time, especially with schools starting to open up again, now is the time to be sure you know what your school's emergency plan is, all right? In reality, you may be working across the bay or visiting someone when something happens and the kids are at school, you may not be able to get to them right away. You need to rest assured that there is a plan in place at your school so you know what it is. If they have a local location they would evacuate to, they have extra food, they have extra bedding and cots and things for the kids, whatever they may have, great. but it's important that you know what it is because it'll lower the temperature. You will know what the plan is. You will know they'll be taken care of, and you'll be able to get to them eventually, but knowing that they'll be taken care of. So that's very important. Please, please, please register for SMC Alert. All certs should be registered with SMC Alert, and know your zone. Did you have a chance to look that up? Know your zone. These are important things. All right. Now, we are in the orange tier. Very exciting. Yellow is next. If we all keep working on wearing our masks and keeping our distance, and when it's our turn getting vaccinated, we are going to be heading into yellow very soon. So I'm very excited about that possibility. Now, we have 66 people enrolled in this class. We had another, I want to say 70 in the previous class. So it'll take a few skills days to get everybody fully certified in CERT. But we can't schedule them until we are in the yellow. So as soon as we hit yellow, we will find a date. We have to get all our plans approved, and we'll start enrolling you for Skills Day. But the only people who can enroll in Skills Day are the people who've completed Online CERT. So everything through the final exam, you'll be given that certificate of accomplishment and all your essential documents. You need to have all this in place and ready to go, and directions will be emailed to you on how to get everything sorted to us so that we know, yes, Bob checked off and Joanne is checked off, and everybody can move forward, and then we can schedule you for a Skills Day. But we can't schedule you for a Skills Day until you've completed everything. So now's the time to get that going. All right.
Hey, Sandra, we have a question about, do we have a ballpark of how long Skills Day will be scheduled after we hit yellow?
We were talking about that. I would imagine, based on everything that we have to do, all the steps and boxes we have to check off, that it would be yellow and then at least 3 weeks. At least 3 weeks from the get-go of yellow. So that will be our first Skills Day. I will try to schedule 2 so that we can find a date that hopefully works for you. It will be on a weekend, either a Saturday or a Sunday. It will be a full day. Don't plan on going out afterwards or doing anything. You'll be too tired, but you'll be so fulfilled and so ecstatic. You know, truly, it's a great feeling after you've completed your Skills Day. But we want to make sure that everybody who's signed up for Skills Day has everything completed. So now is the time to catch up on anything that you've not been able to do. Go back and review things. Now, the other thing that will happen before Skills Day, so once we schedule it, is I will hold a review on Zoom. So we'll refresh, we'll discuss things, I'll give you tips and things that you'll want to know before you walk into Skills Day. And remember, Skills Day is not a test. Skills Day is your opportunity for hands-on practice of all the things that you have studied and learned about in CERT. All right. So this is one of our shorter days. We're getting ready to wrap up, but I want to give you this opportunity for some questions if you have any, because we only have this office hours and next week, and we're done for this period. So I want to make sure that we cover anything that's been sort of lingering in the back of your mind. These are good opportunities to ask those. But what we're going to be doing for next week is Unit 8. It's in 2 parts, 8.1 and 8.2. Unit 8, which is terrorism and CERT. And Pat Halloran will be back next week to go over and review terrorism and localize it for you. So you can see how it may or may not impact you here. Hopefully not, but we want to be as prepared as possible. So things to look for. Okay. So that's it for me. And I want to give you some opportunities to ask any questions, but I did have actually 2 polls that I wanted to run. If it's okay, Casey, to run number 9 first.
Okay. We also got a question in too, so I'll ask it while they're launch the polling. But someone's saying about cribbing earlier. I heard that someone in Loma Prieta, Oakland Highway collapse died because their legs were trapped for hours. And when they were freed, the blood on legs had clotted and the clots killed them. If the limb is tourniqueted by debris, how long until it's too risky to free them?
Wow. That's outside of our scope of training. You know, that's something that a medical professional would have to do. So you have to make a decision in every situation, right? So first of all, you want to make sure that the victim is viable, the victim is alive, before again putting your team into harm's way. We'll know when we're responding how far into the incident we may be, and what the situation may be. So again, assess the situation. You're looking for your safety first, the safety of your team first, and you're doing the best you can for the most, right? Doing the most good for the most people. So, you know, yeah, you're going to need to move somebody who may have, you know, they're in a situation where you need to get them out, and they may have a neck or spinal injury. Do you not move them and leave them there? They're going to die anyway, right? So now take them out, and you've given them an option. You give them a chance, right? So you know, I would not have changed the plan. I probably would have done exactly what they had done, and it is a shame. Just like we talked about tourniquets and not taking a tourniquet off, because once you put the tourniquet on, you know, you don't want any of the negative blood, the unoxygenated blood, to run into the limb. So you don't take off that tourniquet. You let a medical professional who's prepared to do that. Let me quickly do the poll, and I hope I answered your question. They're all very good questions, and we can do what ifs all night long. You make the best decision you can with the training that you have, with the tools that you have at that time. That's what you have to do. So PPE, let's talk about PPE. PPE stands for personal protective equipment, right? All right, 22% of you went with the hard hat and long pants and work gloves. And yes, all of that is PPE, but it can vary. Personal protective equipment can vary based on what you're doing. If you go to a construction site and you'll see wear PPE, in that construction site, it's work gloves and work boots and hard hats and maybe eyewear and ear protection. Those things are what would be PPE in a construction site. We've heard about PPE all this year, right, with the medical health professionals. So what is that? A face mask, the face shield, eye protection, the gowns, the exam gloves, that's PPE too. So anything that protects you is PPE. Often when we assign somebody, you know, when we activate a team or if we're doing a training, we'll say, please wear your PPE. I will try to be specific as to what I mean. But in your case, it's pretty much everything you have in your backpack, your helmet, your eye protection, your mask, okay? And you wanna make sure you come, you know, not in flip-flops and shorts when you're responding to the park. This is not a fun outing. You wanna have closed-toed shoes and long pants, because you don't know if you're gonna be working in medical treatment area, or if you're gonna be like, you know, corralling kids who may have been, you know, lost and we're trying to get them reunited with their families, or if you're going to be, you know, assessing a neighborhood. So you need to be prepared to protect yourself, and work gloves, as well as exam gloves, because you don't know what you're going to be touching, are important parts of your PPE or your personal protective equipment. So nice job on that, guys. There's another poll, which is number 8, I believe, Casey. All right, when can I use my CERT skills?
I also have another question for you.
Right.
In our area, approximately how often does CERT get activated, and what are the most common issues that CERT has addressed other than COVID?
Yeah, okay, so outside of COVID, so COVID, of course, we had meals that we delivered to seniors who were sheltering in place. This was early in the pandemic. We had the search of a missing senior. We've had times when we're, you know, putting information out, door hangers in a particular neighborhood, whether it be for health information, that sort of thing. There may be a time when perhaps we want to give this neighborhood medication for something that may have happened. And we would actually be hanging that on people's doors, perhaps, you know, again, as little contact as possible. But other more common, if you will, types of things. Points of distribution. If there's a disaster and, you know, after several days, people need food, they need water, they need medication, maybe they need clothing. So there might be points of distribution for those specific items set up, and CERT members would be those folks handing out the waters or handing out the foods or handing out the, very common in flooding areas is cleaning supplies, because they're going back into their homes and the, you know, mold is starting to develop and that sort of thing. So we hand them a bag, a kit that's preset with bleach and brushes and booties for your feet and gloves for your hands. And we give those to the residents. And so CERT members might be handing those out. So it can be everything and anything. It could be simple, it could be complex, it could involve communications, documentation, it could involve physical work, you know, medical treatment area, for example. Those types of things are the things that we can certainly do. And as needed, we want to be able to supply them, right? And that's what CERT is about. So let's look at, when can I use my CERT skills? When officially activated and wearing my CERT PPE, 69% of you, very good, that's an excellent. When there's a disaster, nobody went for that one. Anytime, so long as I am within the scope of my CERT training, 31% of you went with that, and ding, 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 you win. Yes, yes. Okay, what if, you know, your kid breaks an arm and you need to splint it? That's a CERT skill. You're going to use your CERT skill for that, aren't you? Right? So does that mean you can't splint their arm because you're not activated? No. Your skills are yours, okay? But when do you activate as CERT? That's when you are officially activated. When you are officially activated and when you are with a team. Okay, so you are not CERT unless you are officially activated. But the skills you've learned, medical, you know, even documentation, you know, things to look for, how to determine if your house might be safe to still live in, or if you need to, you know, camp out in the backyard. All the stuff is, you know, part of your situational awareness. It is yours to use for the benefit of your family and yourself. Okay, but you are not CERT until you are activated and you're part of a team. So I want to make sure that we understand the difference. Thank you for that. Any other questions, Casey?
Yes. Do you know how long it will be before other cities resume their CERT programs?
Good question. I wish I could answer that. Every program is different. Some counties have not been doing anything with their CERT programs, unfortunately. Others have been. So we've been trying to remain engaged. We've been actually activating our CERTs for a few things. We do monthly trainings with our CERTs called CE classes or continuing education classes, but I cannot speak for other CERT programs. It depends on what their command staff has decided. And again, remember, safety first, your safety first. And they, you know, all the fire agencies are, you know, the same thing. That's why as soon as we get into yellow, I have to submit my plan for Skills Day to the command staff and they have to approve it. So everything is going to take some time. The city has to approve it, wherever we're going to hold it. So these are all steps that have to be taken in order to have a Skills Day that is as safe as we can make it for you, as fulfilling as we can make it for you. So these things take time. So that's why I'm asking you to do your part with making sure you have your paperwork, all of your, you know, your merits, all of the certifications you earned, everything ready to go so that when it's time to sign up and I ask you for that so that we can sign you up, it's easy, right? So there are a lot of steps that have to happen to make a Skills Day come together. And that's why we're very excited. The plan is already being drawn up so that it's ready to go as soon as we hit the yellow tier.
And that's all I'm seeing in Q&A for now.
All right. So you guys are doing a fantastic job. Remember that next week is our final office hours. Remember that we will be holding a review prior to Skills Day, whenever that may be. And if you are within our cities on Skills Day, you're going to be receiving your backpack, your basic backpack, your CERT ID badge, and your certificate of completion, yay. And then if you are not from our cities, you're going to receive a certificate of completion as well. And that's what you take to your CERT program in your city or area. And then they'll, bring you on, they'll onboard you as far as what their requirements may be. And, you'll go from there. All right. Okay. So guys, have a great week. Email me if something comes up. Check those essential documents. We're doing terrorism, right, next week. So, don't miss out. And we're also going to talk about communications next week. So that's something that's not covered in Online CERT. So I want to make sure that you are there. And then if you have any questions, next week is a good time to ask them. But I'm glad we were able to cover a few things tonight. Okay. Everyone have a great night. Thank you so much. And I'm proud of you. You're doing great. Take care all.